there is no exactness. And so the physical configuration of energy and matter of any system at any state has something like a machine precision. It has so many digits of precision, and then beyond that, there is only symmetry. There is only that which is consistent, and it's the idea of trying to define a point in a continuum. If I'm trying to define a point 4.36, if I give you point 436, if I give you those digits, then I've given you what, 0.436 436. I've given you 3 digits of precision. But if I were to change the numbers after those 3, these are fixed. So all of these are symmetric with respect to this constraint data. But if I give you 4 digits of precision, now you have less freedom. And so you're constricting. The more precision I give, the more I'm constricting. But there's always a hole there. And that hole are all the digits that have not been defined yet. These are all the things that are symmetric with the constraint data. And so in quantum, so for me, reality has um an incompleteness. At every point in reality, there's an incompleteness, a space of symmetry, the gauge of the universe, and that's what quantum states are. And so it's not the case that it's like the system is really in some state and you just don't know what it is. It's not in a state. The information is created once you have an interaction. And so to me, this idea of the foundation of paradox, as it emerges in things like Lacan, as it emerges in philosophy or whatever, it's actually has an ontological basis in physics itself. Like this is the nature of reality. Yeah.
Wow.
At least
That
that's
was
what
very
I think.
deep. No, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just it's sitting in that in between. It's just sitting in between not knowing and sitting in between the possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just yeah, it's like yeah, I have another way of formulating so to me, contradiction or paradox is a logical singularity. Um, and what I mean by that is we can go back to calculus 1. And so in calculus, when we define a derivative, you have something like an XY axis and you have a curve, right? And so the derivative itself is essentially if I take this curve and I select a point on the curve, then there is a line that's tangent to that curve. And so the derivative is telling you the slope of that tangent line. And so this would be like a slope of 0, then it has some value. And so that's how you compute the derivative. But to do that, to compute the derivative, you need to take 2 points on this curve, and you take the limit as they
Mhm.
come together. And so to compute the slope, you take the rise versus the run. You know, how if I'm taking this curve, then I go up some and I go this way some, and then that's the slope.
Right.
And so I take how much it rises and divide it by how much it runs in this direction. But because you take it divide by how much it runs, if I take these 2 points and bring them closer and closer together, the denominator goes to 0. So you take the limit at the denominator goes to 0. But what that means is that the idea of taking the limit at the denominator gets to 0 is I want these things to be as close as possible while still being separate. Because if they're the same, then I'm dividing by 0, I reach the singularity, which is an infinity. And so I reach this infinity. But um and so the ideal is to get them as close as possible. This is the logic of the limit. And so
Mhm.
and so with that being said, then the most ideal state you could possibly have in the limit of this logic is A and not A, for them to be the same and not the same simultaneously. But the problem is that state, as I get closer and closer and closer, this is the idea of more precision. The closer they get, the more digits of precision I'm providing. And so the point of A and not A actually exists at the point of infinite precision. So within the symbolic order, within our structure of language, that infinite precision is always outside of the language because there's a resolution limit to the language. And so the paradox is a manifestation of the ideal. Just like the Platonic ideal is always outside. You can never get a perfect equilateral triangle manifested in reality, but we can conceptualize it. And so it's something like as beings, we exist in both the space of the ideal and in this temporal space. Like we have a connection to the eternal. So this is a separation of heaven and earth. This space of structure is earth, then the heaven is just like this ideal that's always outside, but we're also like connected to it. And so this is our whole, this is our lack that we're always trying to reunite with. Um, and so to me, paradox itself arises from an information limit in this way I've just described. And infinite precision or the singularity in this sense coincides with paradox.
Oh, wow.